Hello, Raindrops, and welcome to Government Minutes That Matter. This is Mr. A. Yes.
You gotta go.
Where am I going?
You're leaving. They're replacing you.
But I'm the host of Government.
No, not anymore. You know, just like the Democrats replaced Biden. They're replacing you.
No, but no. Government starts right now. Hello, Raindrops. Welcome back to Government Minutes That Matter. This is Mr. A. asking you to take care of three things. Number one, like and share this video. Number two, subscribe to this channel. And number three, click on that notification bell so you know when our videos come out. As always, this video is dedicated to the glory of God who blessed this land. I want to talk a little bit about subscribing, okay? Most of you are not subscribed. Analytics tells me most of you are not subscribed. Those who are subscribed, have you told your friends? Have you told your social media contacts? Have you posted on social media about Government? I'd appreciate it if you would. And those who are not subscribed, I'd appreciate if you would right now. Let's take a brief pause to do that. Thank you very much. And we're back. All right. Today we're going to talk about the presidential pay, presidential succession, and presidential disability. Our president gets paid $400,000 a year. Now that sounds like a lot, but people in private industry, as we know, can make a whole lot more money. But he gets paid $400,000 a year, which is taxable. He does pay taxes, income taxes on it. It's like his paycheck. Just like you pay taxes on yours, he pays taxes on that. Easy for me to say. He also has a $50,000 a year expense allowance, which is used to help with things related to his official duties. From what I read, there is no official accounting of this $50,000. So basically, he can use it for anything. It is not taxed. It is not taxed, not part of his income. So he basically gets paid $450,000 a year. $50,000 is non-taxable. $400,000 is taxable. All right. Now the president obviously has his housing paid for. He has transportation taken care of. He has security taken care of. He has food taken care of for the most part. And so he does have quite a great little gig money-wise when all your basic necessities are taken care of. So the president obviously can be assassinated. That can happen, and it has before in our history. The most recent being John Kennedy assassinated and Lyndon Johnson taking over. The president can resign from office. That happened once, just about 50 years ago. On the 9th, August 9th, a couple of days ago, the president was the 50th anniversary of President Richard Nixon resigning the presidency, and Vice President Gerald Ford took over at that point. The president can also be removed through impeachment. Now, 3 presidents have been impeached. None of them have been removed from office. However, had they been removed from office, the vice president would have then taken over. So, who becomes president? What happens if the president and vice president are campaigning together and their plane goes down? Well, then there is a plan in place called the Presidential Succession Act, which tackles this issue on who becomes president so we can have a functioning government in case some tragedy should befall some of these people. Obviously, the first in line is the vice president. If the president dies, resigns, or is removed from office, the vice president takes over. After that, the Speaker of the House of Representatives is next in line for the presidency, followed by the President Pro Tem of the Senate, which is the senator in the majority party of the Senate with the longest tenure. That is not written in law anywhere. That's generally custom of who gets the President Pro Tem title. After that is the cabinet secretaries in the order in which they were created. For example, you start with Secretary of State, then Secretary of the Treasury, then Secretary of Defense, then the Attorney General. Then you have Secretary of the Interior, Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary of Commerce, Secretary of Labor, Secretary of Health and Human Services, Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Secretary of Transportation, Secretary of Energy, Secretary of Education, Secretary of Veterans Affairs, and finally, because it was the last one created back after 9/11, Secretary of Homeland Security. Now, all these people, in order to succeed the presidency, should it become necessary, they would have to meet the minimum qualifications for the presidency, which we talked about in another video. Go check that out, presidential qualifications. If they don't, if the Secretary of Labor does not meet the qualifications, the formal qualifications, that person is skipped over in the line of succession, and the next person takes their place. So that's what happens if, God forbid, something happened to all of these people at the top. Who becomes president? Now, you see this in action every year, at least, during a very public spectacle, the State of the Union address. Every January, February, the president goes to Congress. It is required in the Constitution to report on the State of the Union, but the president goes to Congress in a joint session of the House and Senate, in front of the Supreme Court justices, in front of the entire cabinet. He gives his speech about the State of the Union. All members of the cabinet except one person who meets the formal qualifications for president is kept away in a secured, undisclosed location. So should the unthinkable happen, like the president, a bomb goes off and everyone is killed in the Capitol, or a plane flies into the Capitol and everyone is killed, we have someone in a secure, undisclosed location who is ready to take over as president. This person is usually not one of the big names. It's usually not the Attorney General. It is usually someone further down the list, like, say, the Department of Secretary of Transportation, who will be kept at a secure, undisclosed location. Should tragedy befall everyone else, this person would now become the president. All right, so we talked about if the president dies or is removed from office or resigns. What happens if the president is merely incapacitated? The president is not dead. The president did not resign. The president was not removed from office. What happens if the president, let's say, has a stroke and can't communicate or is unconscious? Or the president is undergoing a medical procedure and he will be under anesthesia for a while. What happens? Well, at that point, the vice president becomes the acting president. This can be accomplished in two ways. One is the president sends a letter to Congress saying that on a specific date and time, he will be unable to discharge the duties of president, and the vice president will be the acting president. For example, in the 1980s, Ronald Reagan was going to undergo a pretty routine medical procedure that required anesthesia, and so he sent a letter to Congress saying that on this date and time, I will be unable to discharge my duties as president, and Vice President George H.W. Bush will be the acting president. Now, after the procedure was completed and then the anesthesia wore off and the president was back, had his mental faculties again, he would send another letter to Congress saying, hey, I've got this, I'm good, I'm back. Okay, so that has happened. One thing that almost happened about a month ago, a few weeks ago, is the second possibility. When the Vice President of the United States and a majority of the cabinet send a letter to Congress saying that the president is incapacitated. The president either physically or emotionally is unable to discharge his duties. And that they send a letter to Congress saying now the vice president is in charge. Now, this almost happened from reports, not verified, but reports were saying that Joe Biden was told, Mr. President, if you don't resign, if you don't step out of the race, if you don't quit the race, step down and refuse a Democratic nomination, we will use the 25th Amendment and remove you from office. That is a report. Okay, there's no way I can independently verify that, but it sounds plausible, being that he was insistent and he declared several times he is not quitting the race, and then all of a sudden he decides to quit the race. So it seems plausible, but we don't know for sure. All right, to see this in action, if you've never seen the movie Air Force One, I urge you to see it. It stars Harrison Ford and Glenn Close, the woman who has a man's name. Maybe she was the beginning of the transition movement. I don't know, but it was a great movie. I get no residuals, so this is totally an unbiased opinion. It's a great movie. I used to show it to my students because it shows this whole question of presidential disability. I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but basically the vice president is asked to sign a letter saying the president is incapacitated because he is making decisions based on his family, not for the good of the country. And so to find out what happens, go check out Air Force One. Let me know what you thought of the movie down in the comments, back down there where it's very lonely and dusty, and there's a bunch of dust bunnies underneath this screen right here because nothing ever happens in the comment section, so I urge you to do so. All right? So we covered presidential pay, presidential perks, the presidential succession, and presidential disability, what happens in case the president is disabled. I want to thank you for joining us today. This is Mr. A reminding you that we, the government, are the people. There will be a test at the next election, which is happening November 5th. November 5th, there's an election. If you have not registered, please do so. It is your right as an American to make your voice heard. I urge you to register to vote today if you're not already. All right, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.